Hi there, everyone, and welcome back to the CO series. Today's session is called How ABM Can Elevate Customer Retention and Drive Upsell. My name is Claudia Tarico. I'm the editor of Demand Gen Report, and I will be your moderator for this presentation. During and after today's session, please follow along and share all of your thoughts and feedback on Twitter and LinkedIn using the hashtag #COSeries. All of our Twitter handles are right here on your screen, and we look forward to connecting with you on social. You'll also be able to tweet directly from within the On24 platform using the Twitter widget that's on the left-hand side of your screen. And finally, if you haven't done so already, please join more than 60,000 subscribers to our weekly newsletter by subscribing to demandgenreport.com today. Okay, I'm going to go through one quick housekeeping slide today. For today's presentation, we'll be using the On24 platform, and during the session, you'll be able to access all of the information you need right on this platform toolbar. So like I mentioned earlier, you can tweet from directly within the platform using the Twitter widget on the left-hand side of your screen. And we also encourage you to ask our presenter questions. And to do so, all you have to do is use that Q&A widget at the top right corner of your screen. Today's session is slated to run about 25 to 35 minutes with about 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A right after. And you could submit those questions using that widget at any time. The session is also being recorded, so all of our attendees will receive an archived link to the session to go back and review and share with colleagues. And we also welcome you to let us know how we're doing so we could continue to improve our webinar series and standalone webinars in the future. So please take our quick survey that will automatically launch once this webinar ends. You'll also be able to pull up, complete, and submit the survey at any time during the webinar by clicking on the survey icon circled here on the bottom of your screen. So please, 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 before signing off today, please take our quick questionnaire. Alrighty, so I'm so pleased to introduce our featured speaker for today's session, Andre Yee of Triblio. Andre is actually the founder and CEO of Triblio, and he has numerous years of experience with an outstanding record of growth, growing successful software companies. Before founding Triblio, he was the SVP of Product Development for Eloqua, and he was responsible for product development and operations. At Eloqua, he was part of the executive team responsible for leading Eloqua to an IPO and a $957 million acquisition by Oracle. Prior to that, he was also CEO of NFR Security, which he successfully led to growth and exit to Checkpoint Software. So we're in very, very good hands today. Andre is one of the smartest people I know. So without further ado, I'm going to pass things over to him to kick it off. All yours, Andre.
Thank you, Claudia, and thanks everyone for joining us. Welcome. I'm really excited to share with you ABM tactics that will help elevate customer retention and drive your upsells and cross-sells. So here's the simple agenda for the next 30 minutes. I want to just talk about why focus on your existing customers. And then we'll get into the meat of the discussion by covering 3 types of ABM tactics to maximize revenue potential of your customer base. And then finally, just we'll close out with some takeaways and summary highlights. But before I get started, let me just take a couple of minutes to tell you a little bit about Triblio. So Triblio is the leading ABM execution platform on the market. We're really proud of our platform. We are a 3-time Cody Award winner. And as a company, we've been in market in ABM for about coming up to, I guess, 4.5 years. And we have approximately 150 customers. Here's just a sample of some of our customers. They range from fast-growing venture-backed companies to multinational global organizations. But what they all share in common is that they've successfully executed ABM campaigns through our ABM platform. Here's a quick view of our ABM platform. We have a targeting and orchestration core platform with the ability to reach the right buyers in the right accounts through account-based advertising. We can also engage those prospective buyers with the right content through web personalization. And then finally, you can activate your sales team with sales-ready accounts for follow-up. We integrate with all the primary CRMs and marketing automation platforms. We should probably say it's not reflected in the diagram, but we should probably also say we have a very tight integration with Bombora intent data as well. Now, with that covered, let's jump into the meat of the presentation. Let's start by posing the question. As marketers, why even focus on customers? Why focus on your existing customer base? The short answer is that the data and stats tell us that it simply makes absolute sense if you want to maximize the revenue potential of your customer base. Turns out that it actually costs 5 times more to get a new customer than to retain an existing customer. And Neil Patel, the marketing guru, in one of his studies tells us that an existing customer is at least 40% more likely to buy from you than a new customer. And maybe that's why Gartner says for most companies, 80% of your future profits will likely come from 20% of your customers. Existing customers are more promising and more profitable as a source of revenue. I would say in particular during this crazy time when we're wrestling with both a health and economic crisis. Furthermore, ABM is particularly suited for targeting your existing customer base. Now just consider that in ABM, you always want to start with targeting and tiering accounts. Well, that's exactly what a well-designed renewal and upsell strategy entails. ABM is all about reaching the entire buying group, not just the individual lead. Well, that's no different with your existing customers. In fact, you should actually have a more accurate view of who the buying group is and how to reach them with an existing customer than you would with a brand new prospect. And then finally, ABM is about delivering customized messaging to that buying group, right? So, which, based on your experience with your own customer, actually allows you to define a more precise and impactful custom message for each account or each account cohort. So even though much of the growth of ABM, I think, has been focused on new customer acquisition, the truth is that ABM tactics are particularly effective in maximizing customer retention and boosting upsells and cross-sells. That being said, a little disclaimer is in order. ABM isn't a cure for all your customer issues. For instance, it's not going to be a fix for poor customer care. No matter how good your ABM program is, it's not going to make up for you not taking care of your customers. It's also not a fix for a bad product or poor service experience. And then it's not going to make up for you not taking care, adding value to your existing customers, right? So that being said, if you're taking care of your customers, if you're adding value to your customers, then ABM tactics can be employed quite effectively to maximize renewals and upsell opportunities. What we'll do is cover 3 types or categories of ABM tactics that can make a difference to you. And I want to start with this first set of ABM tactics around elevating the new client experience. Believe it or not, successful account renewals actually starts at the very beginning of the customer life cycle. And it's done by creating a positive new client experience. Here's a stat that I thought was interesting. 85% of executives believe that successful onboarding for a new client will ensure long-term loyalty. So what's surprising about this is what I've noticed is that most marketers actually give very little thought or time to supporting that new client experience, even though there's a belief that it will make a lasting impact on customer lifetime value. But if you believe that it's way more cost-effective to retain existing customers than acquiring a new one, it's absolutely worth your time and effort. So the question is, how are marketers doing that? How are marketers elevating the new client experience? Well, there are actually a number of ABM tactics that can be used to elevate the new client experience, but I want to focus on a couple that are particularly worth mentioning. The first is a newer ABM tactic, but some marketers are elevating the new client experience by creating a custom content microsite for each new client. Here's the rationale. New customers are in learning mode, and providing them a venue to get the best custom curated content is invaluable. Actually, at Triblio, we've started to do that ourselves since the start of this year, using our own Smart Pages module. Every customer gets a personalized microsite with content that's custom curated for them. And then we're able to scale this to our approximately 150 active customers. Now, the question everyone has is, how do you scale this, right? And by the way, I know some marketers who do this for several hundred clients, some even numbering in the thousands. And the way you do scale this is actually by creating content templates for different account segments or cohorts. We see clients creating content templates by company size, whether it's enterprise, mid-market, SMB, and then cross-referencing that by industry. Let's say education, telco, manufacturing, and technology in that example. So in that scenario, when you're taking 3 sort of segments by company size, cross-referencing it by 4 industry segments, you're essentially creating 12 templates, and then you replicate that at scale for the companies that are in those segments. And then on top of that, each account manager for those accounts can further personalize each individual content microsite by adding specific content that they know is meaningful or relevant to that particular account. For instance, let's say you have a client who's concerned about privacy and GDPR. As an account manager, you know that. You can add maybe a white paper that you produce to that content microsite. So if you take a look at a typical custom content microsite, this is what it looks like. There's personalized heading with the client's company name called out. In the primary body of the site, you see it's a content-rich site with custom content added, maybe like a custom success plan together with other content that's relevant to that account. And then finally, at the very bottom, you see the account manager or customer success manager's photo and contact information. It's simple, but it's really effective because it gives the new client who is really in this learning mode a venue to get all the best content and to really connect with their customer success manager. So that's about delivering custom content microsites for every client. But here's the second ABM tactic for elevating new client experiences. And it has to do with your corporate website. The real problem with most corporate websites is that B2B websites haven't really changed that much in the past 20 years. Most websites today are, well, they're really like generic digital brochureware. And it typically is catered to the prospective buyer experience rather than the existing customer. And it's, in that sense, what I mean by that is that it's still mostly about capturing leads, getting you to fill out a contact registration form so that we can start you on a drip campaign. Now, the problem is, if I'm a new customer and I just bought from you in the last 30 to 90 days, what value am I really getting from the corporate website experience? And as an existing customer, why are you getting me to fill out a form to get say a premium industry survey that I really want to read Why are you making me fill out a form? Don't you know who I am? This is where web personalization can come in. You want to personalize a different experience for new and existing customers versus the default prospective customer experience. Applying web personalization for specific accounts or account cohorts is a really powerful ABM tactic. Here are a few ways that you can do that can make a big difference, especially for the new client. First, you want to personalize the new client experience so that there's really ungated content experience for your existing customers, even the premium content pieces. Second, you want to make direct accessibility to key parts of the site that you might hide from prospective customers. For instance, your customer knowledge base that you might typically hide to new prospects. You want to make that very accessible and directly accessible. Community portal would be another example. You want to work on creating a welcome experience for new customers, maybe welcome messaging, providing quick start guide offers. If you use chat, having a customer service-centric chat versus, say, a sales-centric chat, which most of them are. And then finally, because you're dealing with an existing customer, depending on their level of maturity, you can feature deeper dive or next level product content. That may be more technical content or power user content, but the point is that there's a lot of different content, different messaging, different offers that you can provide a new client versus that's different, fundamentally different from what you might show a prospective client. So web personalization isn't just for new prospects. It's actually a powerful tactic in impacting the new client experience that can translate to long-term loyalty. Now moving on, the second set of ABM plays or tactics are all around what I call account-centric customer renewal campaigns. Now, when you think about how renewals are done today, here's the most common experience. You get an email 3 to 4 weeks prior to your subscription renewal date telling you you're up for renewal. Sometimes it's a friendly, and I say that sarcastically, if you don't opt out within 30 days of the date, the contract will automatically renew. That's not a great client experience. It's not good business, and we as marketers can do better. More progressive customer marketing teams are actually thinking of the customer lifetime value instead of just the initial sale. And they're supporting the customer success teams by designing and executing a customer renewal campaign or program to sort of facilitate renewals. And here's the basic construct of that program. Starts with tiering and segmenting existing customer accounts. For instance, enterprise accounts may get a different renewal experience from SMB accounts, or strategic accounts with lower spend but high potential may receive special treatment, right? That's the reason for tiering and segmenting your existing accounts, is that it plays into the kind of campaign offers that you invest in for a given type of account. It also leads to sort of the kind of messaging you want to direct to that account segment. Which then leads me to the next element of a renewal program, which is a campaign offer, or in particular an engagement campaign offer, a re-engagement campaign offer. And that may take the form of maybe a special consultation meeting, a new product trial. If it's a tier 1 customer, maybe it's a VIP event that you're offering them. But the primary goal of this offer is to trigger engagement with the primary stakeholders of those accounts to result in a meeting. And then thirdly, you want to have ROI or success messaging that's supported by success proof points. Obviously, all the offers in the world, all the best design campaigns in the world will mean so far less if you can't actually deliver success proof points. So you want to set that up ahead of time and know exactly how you're going to show success. And then finally, you want to have a direct outbound account manager outreach to then discuss or confirm the renewal and renewal process. Put all that together, you end up with a trigger time-based campaign that looks something like this. About 100 to 120 days out, you want to run a special customer re-engagement offer. The goal is to re-engage and reconnect with the customer. If your customer is already engaged with your team, that's great. This will only serve as an added benefit. But in my experience, what I've seen is that most customer teams have trouble engaging all or some part of the customer's buying team. And sometimes it's the end user, sometimes it's sponsors, certainly very often it's the executive, right? So this step will make use of account-based ads as well as email to reach end user sponsors and executives with the appropriate re-engagement offer. You then want to personalize the website experience with the right re-engagement offer for the right account. And the idea with this re-engagement offer is to have a re-engagement meeting that delivers value to the customer, but also provides a venue to have those ROI or success discussions. Now, 60 plus days out, you want to switch to this ROI success messaging on your website. You want to broadly promote that messaging through the broader buying group in the organization. And by that, I now mean you're not talking simply about the users or the sponsors, but you're now looking at influencing C-level executives, including the CFO and CEO. And as you do that, you want to coordinate account manager outreach, be able to equip them to handle questions, negotiate, confirm renewal. That's essentially a common pattern for a successful renewal campaign. The next thing I want to talk about is a sort of another play, ABM play for renewals that helps you proactively defend your turf from competitive takeaways. And it leverages the use of third-party intent data to do that. Now, it's not unusual for customers to check out competitive products as part of their diligence on whether to renew. Some companies will do that simply out of a matter of course. It's almost like a best practice that they'll conduct, even if they're generally happy with your solution. But as a vendor, wouldn't you like to know if they're checking out your primary competitor or considering a switch? Well, you can get insight into whether your customers are doing that by monitoring your competitor's brand or product name as intent topics with a third-party intent data provider. And what you'll get is a list of accounts that are triggering on your competitor. And when you do, you want to cross-reference that against your customer list. Now, if you get a hit, it indicates the possibility that your customer may be considering one of your competitors. It's not foolproof, but it's indicative. And so you want to take action. And what you can do is feed that customer into a competitive campaign that draws out the primary advantages of your solution, almost as you would with a new prospect that you're competing for, right? And that would look something like this. It'll involve using account-based advertising to promote that competitive message. You want to have your website support featuring content that may show favorable head-to-head comparisons. So that means using personalization. And then you want to also interject it with some of these one-to-one account pages and provide them content that can help reinforce that messaging. Now, the third set of ABM plays pertains to account-centric cross-sell campaigns. Now, before I jump into this, just to clarify, when when I'm talking about upsells, and I have used this phrase interchangeably, upsells and cross-sells. When I'm talking about upsells, it's getting customers to upgrade to a higher tier of service or product. Cross-sells is about selling add-on products or service offerings to existing customers. And what I'm going to cover applies equally to cross-sells as well as upsells, even though I'm mostly going to use the cross-sell terminology, just as a point of clarification. So design a program to maximize the revenue potential of your customer base through cross-sells or upsells. Well, the first thing you need to do is really do some work around identifying what I would call your cross-sell customer profile. Just like your ICP, your ideal customer profile that defines your ideal, the profile of an ideal customer. The XCP, or cross-sell customer profile, is about identifying the customer profile or segment with the highest potential to purchase again from you, which may or may not be equivalent and identical to your ICP. It's really about examining your customer base customer database to identify the customers with the highest propensity to purchase again. But because they're customers, you likely have additional information about them. So perhaps qualifying for other factors like operational maturity, specific use cases that they're invested in, as well as maybe their customer satisfaction scores, and then mapping that to specific cross-sell products or service offerings. So how do you do that? How do you identify this XCP cohort? Well, here are different ways to identify the right cross-sell account cohort. The first thing you want to do is look at purchase history associations, whether that's looking into a customer database or a CRM. What you're looking for is you're looking to identify what patterns that you can discover about the initial purchase of specific products and the follow-on purchases of certain add-on products or service offerings. Now, for many of you, you may already intuitively know this based on your experience, essentially your business experience. But looking at data is a good thing, and you might discover that certain customers that purchase product A are more likely to purchase add-on module B, say, right? So these product history associations, looking at them actually make a difference. For example, one of our Triblio clients who's in the business of add-on tools and services for portal software, well, they discovered that customers that were on an older version of a portal solution were really more likely to purchase managed services to help transition to the latest version of portal software. They were very much focused on tools, but when they saw this, based on looking at some of the data, they saw this opportunity to sort of package a special managed service offering that could help customers on older versions of this portal software to transition to a new version. And so they were able to identify that segment of customers, cross-sell them a set of migration tools and managed services for a very effective cross-sell campaign. Very often, you'll want to reference check those buying associations against particular customer cohorts. So you want to cross-reference to see, do buyers that exhibit this buying behavior fit into a specific profile in terms of company size, right? For instance, is this buying behavior for this particular service offering, is that only something that only larger companies with more than 1,000 employees display, or is it broader than that? Or do buyers only fit a specific industry? For instance, only buyers in the oil and gas industry will purchase this integration add-on. Or depending on your product, is the buying of this add-on biased by region in some way? So you want to cross-reference against account profiles and attributes, and then you want to look at other signals as well. Optimal timing for upsell conversations, and you want to possibly qualify for sort of minimal customer satisfaction score. Now, when you've done that, we're ready to design and execute the cross-sell campaign. And a very common construct for a cross-sell campaign that some of our more successful clients will run looks something like this. It starts with phase one, where you're warming the buyer. You're using, account-based ads to essentially feature specific content to expose the need or opportunity that's targeted to that buying group. you're priming the pump, if you would, related to the need for that product or service offering. And you also want to reinforce that by using personalization to feature those content pieces prominently on your website or blog. And then in phase 2, after you expose the need, you want to then provide a consultation event or product offer to the customer. Once again, you want to promote that using account-based ads or email, and you possibly want to feature an offer for a demo, a consultation meeting, and also direct them to that custom content page. Once again, use web personalization so that you can actually hone that right message to that particular account. And then finally, in phase 3, you want to then start that outbound cadence by your account manager, equipping them with specific talk scripts and talking points related to the cross-sell or upsell. Now, finally, I want to finish up by talking about another ABM tactic for cross-selling, which I call grassrooting, right? And it's a strange name, but there's a reason for that. This tactic is about priming the pump for the cross-sell opportunity by evangelizing the solution directly to the end users, who may not necessarily be the buyer of the product. Now, it's not applicable in all situations, but it's particularly useful when the buyer is a different persona or even in a different department from the end user who might be receiving the benefit of the solution. So, in this situation, before you launch into the actual cross-sell campaign, you want to foreground the campaign by creating demand and interest in the end user base. Just an example for that, one of our clients who sells a product offering to marketers, but actually in their situation, the end user of that product is really the sales team. So what they did was they used account-based advertising to actually execute on a strategy that involved creating a promotional and explainer video. They leveraged this for particular accounts that had larger sales teams. They then used, as I mentioned, the account-based ads to promote this video to individuals within those sales teams, particularly in sales leadership roles or senior sales account manager roles. And by the way, as some of you may know, that's one of the advantages of using account-based advertising, which is you're able to target specific roles even though you don't have those individual contacts in your CRM. Account-based ads can deliver that message directly to specific roles within an organization. So before they actually launched officially into the cross-sell campaign, they foregrounded that by running sort of this grassrooting tactic for a month. And then they ran the more conventional cross-sell campaign, which we talked about earlier, and the results were fantastic. They were actually able to increase the effectiveness of cross-sell campaigns by over 20%. Now, once again, it's not applicable in all situations, but when it does apply, it's highly effective, very useful tactic that can pay dividends. To wrap up, here are 5 key highlights I want to point out. We covered a lot of stuff, but here are 5 key takeaways. Takeaway number 1, existing customers are really more profitable and promising as a source of revenue. So you want to focus on your existing customers, and I would say in particular during this time. You certainly need to, as marketers, we need to both look at new customer acquisition as well as existing customers, but don't ignore your existing customer base because it's a highly profitable source of revenue. Second, ABM tactics are especially effective in targeting your existing customer base. All the things that we do with ABM for new customers are actually easier to do with your existing customers because you have a better view into their buying group. You know the messaging that resonates. You know their use cases. So it allows you to actually use these ABM tactics with a lot more precision. Third takeaway, elevating the new customer experience pays off over the lifetime of a customer, right? So, so as a marketer, we should really start to focus on how we can help the new client experience, say the first 90-day experience for our customers. It'll make a difference that pays off in terms of customer lifetime value. 4, use third-party intent data to give you insights on how to defend your turf, how to defend your customer base from competitors, right? And we talked about that earlier. It's a really powerful capability. We deeply integrate with the Bombora intent data, but there are other third-party intent data providers that you can look to as well. And then 5th and final point, successful cross-selling is about matching the right profile, the right account profile to the right offer. And that's all about doing a good job defining your cross-sell customer profile or your XCP before you get into the specific campaign tactics. So with that, I'm really grateful for you spending the time with us. I hope you found this really useful, and certainly feel free to reach out to me over LinkedIn or over Twitter, and I'm always happy to engage with you to carry on the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you so much, An, for that awesome presentation. It was really fascinating, and I love all the key takeaways around intent data. We're seeing a lot of companies really embracing intent, so it's great to hear somebody like you back it up. So we did get some great questions from the audience, but before I get to those, I'd like to just remind everyone once again to please share your thoughts and feedback before logging off today. Just click on that survey icon and answer a few questions for us. The survey will also automatically launch when the session ends. And one more thing before I get to the questions, I just wanted to give everyone a heads up that we're going to get to as many questions as we can live right now. But with the time constraint, we might not be able to get everything out live, so we will be following up with answers to your questions via email. All right, so let's get to those questions. Andre, you ready?
Yep.
All right. Okay. Let's see. All right. First one. If we can make one-to-one pages, do we need to be creating customer-specific content?
That's a good question, and I'm happy that actually you're thinking about that one-to-one account microsite tactic. The short answer is no. You don't have to create customer-specific content for each customer. Most of the content is general content that you probably already have that you're curating specifically for that customer or customer cohort. So it's not primarily creating these one-to-one account pages is not primarily an activity of creating custom content for them. It's the activity of curating your content, the content that you think is relevant to them, right? But that being said, you probably have some customer-specific content in the normal course of business that you're generating for that customer. And like for instance, let's say you do a quarterly business review, right? And you're sharing specific customer success metrics of that customer with their executives. Well, that's customer-specific content or information that you've already created. And that's what's great about this account-specific content microsite. You can add that, and it's a reminder to them of the content that you've already shared to them. If they want to go back and have a discussion and take a second look, that's where they go to get that content versus sending an email, follow-up email, it gets lost and no one can find it. This, you can feature it on that content microsite front and center.
Awesome, thank you. The next question is about intent data. What if we don't have third-party intent? Do you recommend other ways of monitoring customer interest?
That's a great question. Well, the first thing I would say is this. I would encourage you to get third-party intent data. If you've taken a look at it a while ago and you've been turned off because you couldn't free up budget for that, whatever, the one thing I want to say is that probably over the last year or so, the price-to-value ratio has gone down quite a bit. Meaning, it's a lot cheaper to get intent data than it was maybe a couple of years ago. So just as a point, if you can get third-party intent data, and if any of you are listening to this follow-up and you'd like to get that, certainly contact us and just mention you attended this webinar. We'll give you special pricing. Okay, that being said, there are other ways that you can sort of monitor for the signals that your buyer might be looking at your competitors. They don't necessarily involve ABM, but it's just good customer, engagement, and it's stuff like conduct regular briefings with your customers. I think very often as either customer success teams or as marketers, very often we end up, when we meet with customers, end up wanting to quote unquote message to them but I think you need to set up meetings specifically to listen, especially as you're leading up to, the subscription renewal. Set up time specifically to listen. You can learn more, obviously, by listening. The second thing is sort of an ABM-ish tactic. It's proactively have comparative information. Maybe it's a comparative, comparative feature chart versus your competition. Available on your website, or maybe possibly add it to your account content microsite. But by bringing it front and center to your customer ahead of the curve, ahead of their renewal, obviously these comparative information reports will favorably feature your solution. But the real intent of bringing it before them is really to spur that discussion. Because if they're even thinking of looking at another option, just even as a matter of due diligence, you want to be you want to be proactive. You want to find out that's happening, and then you want to feed them information versus having them go out and conduct their own sort of research, possibly on your competitor's website, right? So,
great. Okay, I think we have time for one more question. Okay, here's a good one and very relevant for the time we are in right now. Now that our user groups and conferences have been canceled, what can marketing do to keep people engaged?
That's a really good question, Claudia. And well, first of all, I want to say this. It's a difficult time for everyone, and I know that because I speak to our customers, I speak to marketers all the time. It's very difficult for, first and foremost, health reasons, but as well as on top of that, there are these economic concerns as well. I recently wrote a Forbes article about reshaping marketing priorities during this COVID crisis, and the number one thing I started with was focus on your customers. And I'm not just saying that because this is the sort of topic of this webinar. It's really, during a time like this, the right thing to do is really start by and reorient ourselves by focusing on our existing customers. Take care of them. Really understand what it's like for them to navigate their business during this really unique and difficult time. And then start working on customer exclusive events and content to help them, to serve them. Whether that's creating virtual office hours so that they can spend, exclusive time with your subject matter experts or your customer success team, or building a special educational session, series to help them, get sharper and on the use of your product. Take care of them. And the reality is, if you cannot engage your own customers, you're going to have a hard time doing it with the new prospects. So start with your own customers. That's the first thing. The second thing is, think differently during this time. Rethink what reaching your target buyer means in this digital-only world that we live in today. It may mean different things to different segments of the market, but really all your programs need to be reimagined if you're going to stand out. Even your digital programs, they need to be completely reimagined in this sort of digital first or digital only world. And then I'll just end with this. The last thing I think to realize is that we're in the middle of winter, so to speak, or maybe it's early spring, because there's some of that in some states. Things are looking better. We're in winter, maybe early spring, and you cannot harvest crops in early spring. But what you can do is work the land, sow the seeds. So by that I mean build goodwill in your buyer community by helping them and by being empathetic towards them. This is not the time for hard selling. So we should all do the right thing and really take sort of this helper approach in engaging our buyer community. So hope that helps.
That was great. Thank you, Andre. That's all the time we have for questions today, but like I said, keep them coming, and don't worry if we didn't answer your question. We will definitely follow up via email. Session. Thank you again to Triblio's Andre Yee for such a great session, and thank you to all of our attendees for taking the time to join us today. Please be sure to join us again for our next session in the CO series. It kicks off tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern, and it's called From Conversation to Conversion, Why Real Human Engagement is Your Quickest Route to ROI. Thanks again, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.